We welcome to the program now Bart Williams. He's a Mississippi senator, represents District 15, which includes Choctaw, Montgomery, Octibaha, and Webster counties. Serves as the vice chair of the Senate Technology Cmte. Senator Bart Williams, good to see you, sir. As always, I think we just talked at the Logging Association event.
Wasn't too long ago. It's
not
always
too long ago.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Thanks for coming on. So, you heard our interview with Representative Rob Robertson earlier. You know we got a big election coming up next Tuesday.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, your race, tell us about that.
Well, I had a very formidable challenge in the primary. We got through it. As long as I can get through RIT on Tuesday, I'll be good. At RIT E and right-in guy, you know, he runs for a lot of stuff. But in all seriousness, we worked hard. We feel very fortunate that people decided to hire us for another 4 years and go back there and continue to do what we're doing. I think we're doing good things for our state, and hopefully we'll continue to do that. And you know, you talked about Tuesday. You know, the governor's race is kind of like what's highlighted, but we're not just electing a governor. We're electing an entire government. I mean, we've got 174 legislators. We've got 8 statewide races. We've got our county races here. We've got a contested sheriff's race. We've got a DA race. All these things are very important, you know, starting at the local level, and I think we've got good conservative leadership, and we need to be very conscious and cognitive of that when we go to the polls Tuesday.
Yeah. All right, so did you catch the debate Wednesday night?
I did.
You say that like you're disappointed.
I don't know if I'm disappointed. It was what I expected, but you know, I'll be glad when the election's over. My takeaway was this. I mean, we had a bully wannabe and a statesman. I think that's kind of how this thing ended. A lot of misinformation put out there. You know, having been in the legislature, most people aren't connected to it, but to say that we got $21 as a teacher pay raise.
Yeah.
But $6,000, everybody should be proud of that. That's bipartisan.
And the governor made a great point, really refuting that.
He did.
I think. And what, if you recall, what Mr. Presley said is, well, I tell you what, I'll put the teacher in touch with you. And while we're talking about it, I'll extend that invitation as well. If the teacher wants to come on and talk about it, I'll make that invitation. I got to get it approved by management here, but I think we can probably pull that off.
Absolutely.
But, hey, bring your stubs. Let me see your pay stub before. That's the litmus test of this. Let's just don't talk in terms of kind of random numbers, but let's see the stub before. Let's see the stub after. I got a feeling what they may be doing, and the governor pointed this out. Maybe they're considering inflation, and they're putting an inflation adjustment factor on those numbers. And I get it, but that's a result of the federal government and bad Democrat policies, honestly.
Well, we're practicalists. We want to look at the numbers and understand it. In my opinion, you just got a candidate out here that's trying to appeal to the naivety of the Mississippi voter. Our voters are smart. They're intelligent. They want to say what the voters want to hear to get them to vote for them on Tuesday. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
For example, I'm going to cut the car tags in half.
Yeah.
I think the state gets $14 a tag, if I'm right, somewhere around that. So
it's a small amount of money.
That money's
You're right.
coming locally. And if you take it away locally, how are you going to subsidize that?
We made that point many times, Senator, that essentially what I think they would be looking for is the state to make the counties and the cities whole by doing that. Well, that's I think about $300 million, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, that in concept's good, and I don't mind talking about cutting taxes.
Sure,
I'm conservative,
absolutely.
I'm all about it, but we're in a moment where we have excess revenues. History says that doesn't last forever. We fast forward, I hope, a long time in the future, but we start having deficits. Where are we going to cut? You know, where's that going to be cut at? Who's in the legislature and going to do that? And the last place I'd want to do it's at a local place, but that might be where it is. And now the local municipalities and counties are going to be forced to try to augment that. And I wouldn't want to try to put a future legislature in that position.
Yeah, and he really didn't clarify that. And that a lot of it felt to me like it was just staying at such a high level that without really digging into the details, and you know the governor well enough to know he likes to dig into the details, and he tried to pull Mr. Presley in that direction, and they just really kind of stayed at the sort of high, vague level with the various refrains and talking points.
Well, I think I've been in the legislature 3 years, and I've worked with both of those men, obviously Commissioner Presley in the north, and I met him through some personal acquaintances after the election, and of course I've had to work with him, and obviously the governor as well. Tate Reeves is a man I've seen for 3 years. Brandon Presley is a different person. I don't know if an election does that at that level. I haven't been there, so I kind of withhold. But he's been coached or something's going on there that's just really changed him, because he was a likable guy, the guy that he tried to be, that he's trying to portray himself as. He's a bully. He has offended every elected person in Jackson, I think, the legislature especially. I mean, how's he going to work with us? He's going to have to amend that. Our DPS commissioner, he went on him the other day, and this is a guy I think has done a great job. And none of us are beyond reproach. We welcome criticism. We want to do our jobs better, but by and large, I think Rob said it, the people that serve want to serve their communities and do good for them by and large. There's always, bad apples in any jar, in any bucket, but by and large, we're down there to try to make things better for the people we serve.
Yeah. And I totally believe that. But just talking in generalities and then sort of twisting and turning and contorting some of the talking points, like with respect to Medicaid expansion.
Yes.
I mean, gosh, you would just think that, full economic bliss, maybe immortality would break out if we expanded Medicaid. You got to temper that and really drill down into the realities of that. And unfortunately, we weren't able to get that done in the debate in such a short amount of time. But the governor well knows all those details.
Absolutely, he does. I mean, that is obviously an issue that's in front of us that we need to deal with. Our healthcare situation is an issue that we've got to tackle that and figure out the solution, and every possible solution needs to be on the table.
Yeah.
The Medicaid expansion conversation is such a large breadth. I mean, the governor said 330,000 people, 100,000 private insurances would not. Commissioner Presley said 230. I've looked at models at 180,000. I mean, I think, where's the reality?
There's no consensus.
We've got to get hard numbers. I mean, before we can go forward with it, and as I've said here before, I'm not about welfare expansion. I'm not about subsidizing someone that's not in the workforce.
Right.
I think that's a hard pass on a lot of us, the conservatives, that would consider the conversation as we go forward.
Yeah.
As heard you say a minute ago, I mean, there are other models out there that are public-private that we can do this and move maybe some people to private insurance through some models that we could create. I think that's fascinating. I think we need to get the smart people in the room. Maybe we'll leave the insurance guys out as we go forward.
Start with that.
And talk about it and bring them in at the end of it. But how do we find a way forward where the private sector can be profitable? We're capitalists, of course, but also how can we personally let government have less interaction with this, because government does great in the military.
Yeah.
Where are we most efficient elsewhere?
Yeah, totally true. And there are some improvements we could make there as well, certainly in how we allocate our funding. And that's a core function of government. I think it's hard to argue that government's first responsibility is to protect the nation and to keep bad guys from doing harm to it and its citizens. And I think we all could agree on that.
Yeah, as a senator, I think my number one responsibility is public safety.
No
that
doubt.
takes on many forms, and decisions I make are based upon that premise.
Yeah, I totally agree. So do you have any just predictions about the outcome on Tuesday? You thought through that? Seen any polls or talked to folks that are kind of plugged in?
It's all over the map. I think the governor's race is a close race. I think people need to get out and vote. A lot of people sit at home and think it's going to take care of itself. It doesn't. We got 35% of the people voting on a good day, and that's bad.
Yeah.
There's another reality is we have someone selling themselves as an old school Democrat, the kind our parents had back when the party was different. That party's dead, by the way. I hate to say it. I wish it weren't, but it is. There is a good chance, not a good chance, but there is a chance that in the next 4 years, the governor of Mississippi could swing the balance of power in Washington, D.C. And people need to realize that if a sitting senator, for whatever reasons, were not to finish their term, the governor gets to appoint that person. That's a real thing, that if a conservative is sitting there on the fence thinking about this, weigh that along with the judges the government appoints. The reality is the legislature and politics in Jackson is not a single-person sport. It's a team sport.
Yeah.
There's 174 of us. There's one governor, and we've got to work in tandem to try to create good policy for our people. We decided a long time ago we didn't want a king. We set it up this way. That's how it's supposed to be. But we need to, we got to get along. We've got to work together. But
That's a good point.
Those are executive privileges that the governor has that could have, universal consequences.
I totally agree, and I've actually heard Governor Reeves make the statement that if Brandon Presley were to somehow prevail and there were an opportunity, a seat were vacated in the U.S. Senate, we certainly hope no such thing happens.
No, of course not.
But you have to at least be cognizant of the power the governor has. He said you're looking at Senator Benny Thompson, should that occur.
Yes.
That's what we got to think about.
Yes.
Right
That's
there.
real. That's
Yeah.
a real possibility.
Senator Bart Williams, appreciate you coming on, as
It's
always.
a pleasure, sir.
And congratulations on all the success here in your district in Starkville, Mississippi, the Golden Triangle in particular. You guys have got a great thing going up here in this region.
We're blessed to be here, and I couldn't leave without saying this. Hell State, come out to the homecoming game tomorrow. Whip the Wildcats.
They even got a cowbell on.
Hey, if you'll give it to me, I'll ring it.
Folks, we're stepping aside for a break right here. Once again, we're at the Convention and Visitors Bureau in Starkville, Mississippi, promoting Starkville, Mississippi's college town.